Okay, so back to the research investigation. Now that you've got all of your evidence, you'll be confident this is a viable topic for you to write your research question and proceed. So let's have a look. That was the claim: genetic screening techniques play a role in IVF success. Let's have a look at what the syllabus objective says. No, let's have a look at what the marking guide says. You need to have a specific and relevant research question. So relevant means that it covers if this is your IA3, it needs to be the Unit 4 content. Okay, now specific. So because our claim was really broad, we need to make that very, very specific. So let's have a look at the example that I have. So this is the rationale, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But then our research question is this: does pre-implantation genetic testing for aneuploidy improve pregnancy outcomes from IVF in women of advanced maternal age receiving single embryo transfers? So it seems quite long, but it means that it's very specific. So it's a specific type of screening technique for a specific reason, or I guess this is a specific type of screening for this particular type of women, and they've got even more specific by talking about a particular type of IVF as well. Okay, now you'll see that it's a does question, because that means you can essentially answer that as a yes/no, which makes it easier for us all the way through, because we're gathering evidence to determine, well, does it improve outcomes or not? Okay, so that's our research question. Now, if we have a look at the rationale, so let's have a look at the marking guide for the rationale. A considered rationale, identifying clear development of the research question from the claim. So we're going from a very broad claim to a very specific research question. A considered rationale shows clear development of the research question from the claim. So what do we need to talk about in our rationale? Well, it's everything that's in the research question. So I need to talk about pre-implantation genetic testing for aneuploidy. I need to talk about what we mean by pregnancy outcomes. I need to talk about IVF, and I need to talk about this group of women called women of advanced maternal age, and I need to talk about single embryo transfers. So there's a lot there. Now, I always like to start the rationale by making a statement like this. Okay, the provided claim states this is too broad for effective research, therefore the claim has been refined into a specific research question. The development of the research question is outlined below. Look, if you don't know how to start, something like that is a nice way to just get going. Now, you'll see that what I've done is I've provided information here. I've introduced IVF first, and then I've said one of the reasons, and so it's to help people who are infertile. One of the leading causes of infertility is aneuploidy. This is what aneuploidy is. Now, so I've provided information about what aneuploidy is. Then I've gone into women of advanced maternal age, and the way I've done that is one group of women who experience, etc. So, you kind of finish, you start off the next paragraph by building on what you've just said. Okay, one type of enzyme or one group of women, that sort of thing. Now, talking just some information here about what causes their aneuploidy, all that sort of thing. And here I say, again, this idea of linking. One way to reduce the risk of multiple births. Okay, so, and so that's introducing this other part. One medical intervention that can be used is, and then we're introducing this, the screening technique. And then ultimately, I'm just introducing, well, how are we actually going to measure pregnancy success, IVF success? So hopefully you can see here that it's more detailed than in your student experiment. We need to cover off everything that we're talking about in our research question, and to show that it builds or develops the research question from the claim, we want to try and link our paragraphs. It doesn't really matter where you start, but just have some sort of broad, start broad and go more specific. And then at the end, that's when you're going to have a new section to present your actual research question. Now, let's go back here for a moment, because it also says you need to have a selection of sufficient and relevant sources. So in your rationale, you need to draw on sufficient relevant sources. Now, three of the sources that you're probably going to use in your rationale are the ones that you are using the evidence for. Now, that's probably worth saying here that the papers that you're using for your evidence, you will get a lot of this background information to go in your rationale, okay, by reading through the introduction section of your papers. It's also going to point to other papers that you can reference as well. Look, as a general rule, you probably want 6 or 7 different references in your rationale. And instead of using Wikipedia or Live Strong or Better Health Channel or whatever, you're better off using robust papers that you get from Google Scholar. Okay, so if we can go up to Google Scholar, we can go PGTA, okay, and you can see there's a whole heap of different sources here, not necessarily the ones that you're using for your evidence, but they are going to give you good background information that you're able to use as references. And remember, to do those references, all you need to do is click on Cite, copy, and paste it in your reference list, and you're going to reference it in text by using the first author's last name, et al, and the year. So I'll show you what I mean by that. Okay, so Foreman, space, et, space, al, full stop, comma, there's meant to be a space here, space, 2012. Now, I've got 2 references for this one, so I separate them with a semicolon. So you can see, you can use my report as an exemplar for ensuring that you use appropriate genre conventions and you acknowledge sources through appropriate use of referencing conventions.